right. Here's the thing. Top floor, right? Usually has to come down a floor. Hey kids, knock it off down there, or whatever you gotta do. But the penthouse always comes down a floor, right? And then the floor below is always like, well, what if the penthouse forgets to come down and remind us of, right? Well, here's the thing. The penthouse belongs to a male, and his whole purpose on coming down to the tenants below and banging on the ceiling going, guys, hello, I know you want to break that glass ceiling, but I'm still above you, and this is what I need you to do. Right, why hasn't that one worked with these humans for a couple centuries now? I mean, certainly this century. I'm just curious, considering the operatives being he and I don't change at the most important pieces in the time and space gigs that you all run some kind of purpose off of in Humanville of, right? So like there was there's a movie, right? It is called The Hulk, Hulk. It's a funny thing. The guy, when he's like going around in his daily whatever, he kind of looks like Jeffrey Epstein. I'm just gonna say, like, if I had to pick like a celebrity socialite somewhere, I would go with Jeffrey. Hold on a second. Wait. Hurry up. What? All right. Give me 1 minute. Let's go. So I would go with Jeffrey Epstein. But what happens is when the Jeffrey Epstein character gets to be that big, green, scary Hulk, right, yeah, that's actually the green machine behind the Oz, OZ, in the Emerald City, right? What's behind the curtain? Yeah, you don't want to know. It's a big, scary green guy. Right. Because for every mistake in his career that Jeffrey Epstein made, it just made the really sappy, sweet, painted Vermeer kid twins, right, and their love story, right? For every mistake you make that tears them apart in their sappy love story, it makes the male, who seemed really sweet and harmless and innocent and really gentle in the beginning, yeah, it makes him grow to the side. He's 6'5", and if he only has working out and planning your death on his agenda for 42 years, imagine how this is going to end. Yeah, I would go and wake up every day with that momentum. Yeah, no, really, because that's really where we're at. And so when Jeffrey came to visit me at like age 16, he called me and he made a babysitting appointment. He says, I got your name from one of the other clientele that you have. He says, in the neighborhood. They said that, you do a really good job watching over their children. He said, I'd like to schedule a time where I could interview you. I'm like, interview me? I apologize. I said, does that mean that you want me to schedule an appointment to come watch over your children? Or do you want me to, like, I've never had anybody just want to meet me before I watch over their children. Usually they just book the appointment and then I go sit in their house and watch their kids while they go do whatever it is that they do. And he's like, right, well, I'm just a little different. I'd like to meet you first. I'm a little more protective of my children. I was like, okay. So we scheduled a time. Then the guy, then he tells me this. Now, I don't, like, name doesn't sound familiar because, again, I'm in like isolation and quarantine and I don't know any of you socialites, and I don't have like a Disney Princess magazine or e-manual. I don't have a light machine. I don't have people to call to ask things to. I'm just going around going, okay, where are we today? So he comes and he wants to meet me halfway down the block, which was strange, but I was like, okay. So I go to meet him down the block and then we go for a ride. Well, at first, like, I mean, it went like his personality went like it was like roller coasters with him. And then at one point, like, he wanted to kill me. He said, "What if I told you I have a gun in um, the the glove box?" And I'm like, okay. I was like, I don't know where you're going with that, mister. I was like, are you a police officer? I was like, because usually they're the only ones who carry guns, is law enforcement. And he goes, right, I forgot you and Mr. Sweet Bambi guy always think about those kind of things instead of, right, the rest of us. I'm like, right, I don't understand that, but I'm gonna just go with, smile and wave. And so then he started laughing. And then like again, it was like a roller coaster of emotions with this man, because I don't know where he's coming from, who he is. Then he wants to show me a business. He says he collects artwork. And I'm like, okay, you collect artwork. I don't know what that means. I'm like, paintings? And he's like, kind of. And I'm like, all right. And so then he said, he gave me a business card. He says, if I give you a business card, will you do me a favor and answer some questions? I go, sure. So he hands it to me, and now it's in a completely different language. And he says, can you read it? And I looked at it and I said, no, I apologize. I don't know this thing. And he said, if you had to guess, what do you think it is? I said, well, it looks like either Hebrew or Greek, maybe. He goes, right. He goes, but you wouldn't guess like Arabic, right? Like that definitely doesn't. And I go, I don't know what Arabic is or looks like. I've never heard of that before. I was like, but Hebrew, I've been to some bat and bar mitzvahs with the kids that I go to school with. They invited me. I was like, so I've seen this shape of symbol written before, and it looks closest to the Hebrew or the whatever it is, whatever their secret spiritual book is. And he was like, right, I forget that you right. And then he said, what if I told you, does the word, I think he said mizad, sound familiar? And I said, I mean, it doesn't sound foreign, but it also doesn't sound familiar. I don't know how to make that make sense for you. I was like, I don't think that I've ever heard it in my daily life. And he goes, actually, no, that makes perfect sense, believe it or not. He's like, now, do you know that you look like this famous girl in a painting? And I said, no. I was like, I'm sorry, I look like who? And then he had to remind me about Johannes Vermeer, because I think, I had brought it up, but again, I wasn't really paying much attention. And then I forgot. And then he reminded me. And it was, and then he asked what color I would say his skin is. And I go, your skin. He's like, well, you're like Bavarian cream or white, according to like my people. Like, what do you, in your painting, what would you call me? I looked at him, I'm like, I don't know, tan maybe? Tawny? Is that acceptable? I don't know. And he goes, actually, he's like, I would have thought tawny was more orange, but right. And I was like, yeah, again, I don't have like a painter's like palette. I mean, I'm not real sure. But in hindsight, from some of the photos that I've seen, there has been times where he has had almost one of the really sacred, like rare genetics of what I call a tomato and eggplant combined vegetable, and not because it's the color, although that has something to do with the spiritual aspect of it. But I would never, like, I know some people, when they hear eggplant, they're like, whoa, I am not, it's not disrespectful. It's actually an ancient genetic that I have to protect under different guise, which I've also met another extra special patent that I have under 2 letters, a hashtag, and 2 numbers, that also not suffers from a condition, but he's blessed with this ancient tribal spiritual not atone, well, yeah, it would be atonement in the skin flesh tone, but it would be a kindred spirit with others of that sacred spiritual like awesomeness. Like, I mean, and even Jeffrey had like that, like, I don't know what, like, you respect them, you know? And then he said to me at one point, he was just like, now do you think I'm handsome? And I go, now that's going to be really hard for me to answer because I'm only like 15, 16. And I try not to comment on anybody's looks, especially older gentlemen that are asking me to babysit their children. And he said, he goes, wow, he goes, you really are good at this, like, not to try, like, he's like, all right, he's like, I understand that completely, and I wouldn't want to, he goes, but if I was asking about, like, somebody my age, like, would you recommend me to maybe another mother, if she was a single mother, would you maybe recommend me as a handsome possibility? And I said, that I can, yes, because I said, I mean, you have, in that sense, if like I'm talking about a painting, you have beautiful facial structure, very pronounced, and it's not your typical walking around look. I was like, it's, so yes. And so he says, actually, he goes, that I, thank you. And then he didn't want to show me his eyes, which I thought was weird. He said he had some kind of orange thing going on, and I'm like, okay. If you say so. I don't know. I can't see them. But whatever. And then that was it. Like, he left me off. But now, here's the thing. I don't know. At Millennial Falcon or Millennia Falcon, when they tie you to certain contracts to go out in your paid socialite, like you have nice lives and you're respectable men, and you live a certain lifestyle while I'm living the princess prison. But we warned everybody so they wouldn't make mistakes to protect them, my time, his time, and your reputation around the world. So I didn't have to come out and yell at everybody in respectful places. I don't get where we got so off track with the importance of Mr. Sappy Sweet Teenager and his betrothed that looks exactly like the Johannes Vermeer painting. I mean, several people have, and I'm always a quiet kid. I don't talk about other people. I just, whatever. I just go throughout my day and I'm expecting my betrothed. My only expectation of all you humans is that you deliver on what is required of you, which is my betrothed for our breeding cycle. That's it. Why have 100% of you failed at getting Mr. Johannes Vermeer painted, Niklaus, whatever his last name is, into my very real breeding cycle permanently without any defecation from the adjoined parties to all of those very real life and death contracts that we hold you to, and your families, and all of the pay that you received? And why is Israel in charge when they can't even spell Israel? Israel. It's real? Is it? I don't know, because it looks like they've got their plan backwards. And then if I was going to be betting woman, the fact that Jerusalem is spelled J, right? The hook, right? The hook nose. Look at that, right? In the ER, right? Time frame, right? The Salem Witch Project. Yeah, that one. I would have not picked them and Mazad as the number one issuer of instructions to get my one part right. They just seem like they'd be a bad bet on linguistics, runic, and druidic writing in characters that are English. Just saying. You wanted to stay alive, keep your friends, family healthy. I would have gone with someone other than Israel, because it's not real when it's flipped backwards. It's Israel when it's backwards, and it's not right for anybody.